welcome everybody and thank everybody for joining us again for another fireside chat here at OpenSpace with the Trades Group. We have Dan Shea here at Shea Electric, a group out of Wisconsin. Dan has been with us for about a year now. We got introduced to Dan at, I believe, Nika Electric, where I know Dan is a big player in Nika and has actually introduced a handful of other companies to us at Nika as well. So it's been super exciting partnership. And, with these fireside chats, we've done a handful of them so far. When we have a great customer like Dan over at, Shea Electric, we love to, sit down and have these opportunities to pick your brain, see how OpenSpace is going and see where we can further help you, but also further help trades in the community. So super excited for this opportunity today and would love to kick it over to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and introduce Shea Electric.
I'm Dan Shea. I'm with Shea Electric and Communications based out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We're a electrical, low voltage, and security contractor. So we do everything in-house. So we do electrical work up to 600 volts, and we do all the systems. So we do voice, data, video, fiber optics, card access, cameras, sound, music, paging, fire alarm, DAS, and the list goes on. And we do it all in-house, and we don't sub things out. We do everything from a convenience store to a hospital. Our biggest customer is SSM Health. And they have 3 hospitals and 20 clinics. Mm-hmm. And again, everything. We're commercial, industrial, institutional. We don't do residential. And we've been with you. This is our second full year. We're going to be coming up on, I think in November it renews, and we'll be into our third. Yep. So we have had 1 full year, and we're almost on our second year. When you said I'm a player with Nika, I'm actually a small player with Nika. I'm a small contractor. We're under 10 million, and there's much bigger fish out there. And our forte is we are a paperless company. So that's our forte. We've been paperless for about 10.5 years. We started in 2006, so we're 18 years old. If the paper's not on our desk, or in 1 2-drawer lateral filing cabinet with 1 drawer of paper, we don't have paper. Awesome. So period, the end. So it kind of ties in with the open space of everything electronic, everything in the cloud, backed up to the cloud, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Just want to correct one more thing. OpenSpace came to me through Electri. Electri is the research and development arm of Nika, and Josh Bone is our executive director. And we had a task force with Schaefer Electric out of St. Louis, and there was a handful of other contractors. We evaluated 4 different products. OpenSpace actually came out on top, so consider that a Consumer Reports edition. So you guys came out on top. We did a very good job drilling down, and when our study came out, we jumped on board, and Alex Brown was our rep. We probably had like 4 to 6 touches, 4 to 6 meetings per se. We tried it on, and we ran with it. It's a beautiful product, and we use it a lot. And as we get going here, you'll hear about some of the different ways the smaller contractors, because we're not the Goliaths out there, right? But we are technology driven, and again, we're not bleeding edge, but we are cutting edge. So that's.
I love that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. How we found each other again. Electri, Josh Bone, Jared Kreisman, they've been awesome to us, and I'm glad that we actually have the opportunity to talk about that. So that's pretty cool. So you said you evaluated 4 different solutions, and you ended up picking OpenSpace. Can you tell us a little more, like what was it in OpenSpace that you saw that made you feel confident that was the right choice in a solution?
So what I didn't share with you is we're an IPD contractor, integrated project delivery. So technically we don't bid to contractors, right? We budget, but we 94.6% of our work last year was negotiated, right? Which is a great place to be. But it's all done by design. So we're very relationship focused on whether it be our lighting or whether it be Lutron for controls, or so we're, again, whether it be Bluebeam, what have you, we're very relationship centric. So again, it started with a conversation, And I picked the top two, to be honest with you. I picked the top two in the study. I reached out to both. Alex Brown, head and shoulders above the other guy. I'm not going to use the names. If you guys want to know who the four people are, you can go to the electronic website and you can download the information if you want to.
Yeah.
I'm not here to talk good or bad about them, but I did go after the top two just to hear. But right out of the gate, Alex knew the product backwards, forwards, top to bottom, left to right, front to back.
Yeah.
And that says a lot, right? I know you got the sales part, right? And that everybody's going to show you the eye candy and all that stuff. But the nice thing about it is, and I don't know how some of the viewers are, but I don't take meetings. I don't take meetings. So you got to send me everything ahead of time. I am going to watch the videos. I'm going to read the information. So when we meet, you're gonna get hit with a fire hose of questions because, if you meet and you don't have that information, you kind of like you hang up the phone, and then you have like 10 minutes later you have all these questions.
Yeah.
What's really a meaningful meet?
Yeah.
So we have to be very powerful when we meet. And Alex, from day one, kudos to him. He knocked the skin off the ball.
Yeah.
And followed through. Says I can get that to you by noon on Thursday or whatever it was, and he did. And so that's part of it, right? We want to know, not just on the sales side, and again we can talk through that, but we started with the Insta camera, 360 camera, and we're now with the Rico. We ran into a couple hiccups in the very beginning, the very first year, and Craig is our SOP. He's a project coordinator, and we have two people in the company that can do anything, right? We don't always have just one, no single point of failure. So Craig's been our point person to your team. Yep. And again, your team gets back to him. He's got a team of 3 that he sends an email to. And they bounce. If there's a question, there's a resolution, which is important because time is money.
Yeah, no, I love that. And to your point on Alex and his knowledge of the product, I'll take a moment to actually just give Alex a shout out. I think he was like the 10th hire here at OpenSpace, and he bleeds OpenSpace. And it's been pretty consistent across all of our account executives and their customers like yourself, kind of the relationship you have with Alex. A lot of these guys really value what we're doing with you and in the trade space, and we really see it as an opportunity to help just better the way business is done. And I love the relationship you've built with Alex, and I love that he's had the opportunity to work with you. You keep saying, you're a small fish in this Nika pond, but like from what I've heard from Alex, like he says you're, extremely involved, have been extremely helpful in helping, further relationships with Alex. And so to me, like this is what it's all about, is having these relationships and building on them. And would actually love to talk a little bit about Craig. So it sounds like Craig is kind of the point man really running all this. What was his experience like? Because I'm sure, it sounds like he's the person that deals with technology. Technology falls on his plate. I'm sure, not all technology is simple to use. So we really love to lean on like making OpenSpace as simple as possible. What was his experience like first, getting OpenSpace in his hands?
Well, I would tell you that he was the first person to open the box.
Yeah.
He did the capture of our office to start. Again, not plug and play, but pretty close. It took probably 4 or 5 times to get the battery life and all this other stuff that you got to figure out, right? And we can talk through that, but it comes with a battery. The battery life is a big issue. So we bought an external power pack. We've got it jumped over to the unit so we can take really long captures now. Blah blah blah. But it's the learning curve, and that's why when you say I reached out. So for me, I'm a big Professor Hanna fan, right? So everything's about hours, and everything's about efficiency, labor efficiency. So the reason I mention OpenSpace, right, is because you saved me money.
Yeah.
It is a tool. Some people think tools cost money. I say tools make money, right? You put a good tool in a good craftsman's hands and get the hell out of the way.
I love that.
But yeah, Craig, Did he struggle with it at the beginning? I wouldn't say struggle. Did he spend a day and a half working on it? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Was it pristine in the first week? Absolutely. You know, were there a few captures that were iffy? Absolutely, right? You don't know what you don't know. But through the tutorials and through all the other stuff, and again, I did not bring Craig here to talk, unfortunately, but he could speak directly to that. But he said that, and when, like I said, when there were issues, and there have not been any in the second year, in the first year, we ran into probably 2 to 3 times where there was a hiccup of something, of stitching or something. He sent an email, there was a reply, there was a resolution within easily, I won't say 24 hours, I think once went to 48, but everything blew out, right? I mean, and again, we're working on 2-week look-aheads, so we're not taking a capture and we don't need it immediately, right? I mean, it is technology, right? 7 frames a second. This is a lot of information that you got to stitch together.
Yeah.
So some things take time, right? Warren Buffett says you can't have a baby by getting 9 women pregnant for a month. So, you know, you've got to let that burn in. So, but
Yeah.
he had no issues.
No, that's really great to hear. And I'd love to dig in on some of the features and the use cases of how you're using it, but I always love to start kind of at the high level. What have you found to be the most valuable?
So we typically play in a 40-mile radius around Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Rarely do we go outside that. We don't need to, right? Um, uh, but we had a customer that said, "I want you to come do some work in Milwaukee last year."
Mhm.
And I said, well, you know, there's 2 great contractors down in Milwaukee, Roman Electric and Lemberg. I said, I'll put you in touch with them. And they said, no, we want you to come do it, Dan, you know? So we said, okay. And it was a design build, right? We had to do the whole layout. We went down, did the capture, but it's an hour and 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
And to be able to go down there, right? They gutted everything, right? So we did the walkthrough with no ceilings and HVAC's there, blah, blah, blah. We did bring our iPad down for the LiDAR abilities with Bluebeam.
Yeah.
But we did have the captures. And it was amazing. The cost, it was a one-time to send them down to do the walk, right? It was the old Boston store, so it's a huge open space, but there's a lot of HVAC and such. We were able to collaborate with the architect. They did have an architect, they did not have an engineer. We posed as the engineer, and we did all the design services, lighting controls, the whole 9 yards. But backing into the architect, because the architect wasn't local, he was out of Chicago. So he's 3 hours from me and a 2 hour and a half away from Milwaukee.
Okay.
So there were times when he drew something with a soffit or whatever, where again, as sometimes engineers do, you know, they dream the dream, but
Yeah.
we can get on and we can do the Teams event and we can show them the open space and we can give them the link and we can, again, that's another great thing, right? You can send people a link. And so the people that we were doing this work for, there was 4 owners.
Okay.
Two are in Wisconsin, one's in California, one's in Nevada, in Arizona. So we sent the link off, so they're able to watch the job
Yeah.
as we're doing the captures, right?
What
Uh,
was when they first jumped into OpenSpace? What was their first reaction to you when seeing it?
Honestly, they were somewhat older.
Okay.
They were all somewhat older, and the first thing is, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to break it. I don't want to touch it. And once they saw how we navigated it and how we pulled down the floor plan, we always attach a floor plan. And once we opened the floor plan, we clicked on it, and they were like, "Wow, I can click." And by the end of the job, and we showed them how the different captures you can drill down to through the calendar to be able to look back at the captures. Once we showed them that, man, we were the greatest things in squeeze bottle ketchup.
That's awesome.
So it was a great tool for the design, being further from where we would typically be, right?
Yeah.
So we did that. Throughout that whole project, we did the captures, right? Because we're not going to have a PM rundown. We are technology driven. We're a 365 user on steroids, right? Power automate, and again, the whole 9 yards. So that'll lead into so we do it for the design. Then we do an indoor and outdoor capture. We do an outdoor capture of every single building we do,
Okay.
period, at the end. We do wall rough-in, so when the walls are going up and we're ready for a rough-in inspection, we actually do a really good capture.
Mhm.
We do above ceiling before the ceilings get dropped, and then we do a final. When they do the final clean, we actually walk through with the furniture's in and all the other stuff are in, and we do the final capture. So those are just, I mean, you, as a construction guy, you're like, yep, that's the typical flow, right? I mean, as you go, I'll talk about a couple different things that are really useful. So as we have a smaller company, but we have a lot of young people. I want to share that we're very conscientious about so the average age of all staff in our company is 38.5 years old.
Okay.
The average age of our field staff is 33.4.
Oh, nice.
That's a very young company, right?
Yeah.
Which is good because what do? They're adapters, right? They adapt to technology, they embrace it, right? They grew up with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and our median age of all of our field staff is 30.5 years old.
Okay.
So we're very blessed that way. And not that age is right? There's nothing that takes the place of experience. So we have enough people that are seasoned to be able to train, but we
Yeah.
have enough young people to create that collaboration. And
Yeah.
so when you're teaching a foreman, a younger foreman or a newer foreman,
Mhm.
when you're bidding, right, everything is about bid hours versus actual. Well,
Mhm.
you also have to, a guy named Norb says you have to manage by walking around, right?
Sure.
You're walking around and you're visually looking around, and we have to teach. Nobody comes out of the womb batting 300. So
Yeah.
we have to teach our PMs are experienced. So we have to teach our foremen
Mhm.
what is 10% complete on on $1.5 million electrical job or a $2 million electrical. What does 10% complete look like, right? What are the metrics? What
Yep.
is 10% of, is that 10% of the whole job? Is it 10% of lighting, power, feeders, branch, what?
Mhm.
So we lean in on that, and we do have not a class, but we do have a one-on-one to talk about it. Well, now you know what your bid hours are. You know
Mhm.
what your actual hours are because you've got your T sheets or you've got your time tracking mechanism.
Mhm.
But now you've got to walk around and visually inspect. Well, if your foreman says we're 40% done,
Yeah.
well, again, OpenSpace allows the PM to do a walkthrough, a virtual walkthrough to say, no, you're at 30% done.
Yeah.
And to verify that, he looks at actual hours. Yep, you're at 30% or close. You might be at 27, you might be at 31. Yep, and then you look at your bid hours, right? That helps true everything up. So it's a great tool. And the coaching method, and again, everybody wants to throw people in the deep end, right? But if you're being a good coach, you can use OpenSpace and jump on a Teams call. And in this case, Chris Hoff would be, let's just say, to Andrew. Andrew is one of our foremen. He
Yeah.
can say, okay, this is why I'm saying that you're at 30% and not 40%. And he can pick a handful of things. I understand.
Mhm.
Only so much of the branches coming along, but feeders aren't, or vice versa, whatever.
Mhm.
So it's a great tool to do. And then also that ties into the BIM. If you do have a BIM model that you can upload side by side.
Yeah.
And also it also ties to QC, right? So when you're doing if you do load up a BIM model, right, and we wouldn't do this in the field, but we could do this as a QC method in the office as we postmortem after action plan. We can kind of look around and say, okay, when we know where all the receptacles are supposed to be, we know where and we can actually model it and see, okay, well, we're off by 2 feet here, we're off by here, we should have put the switches at 40 inches to the bottom and we put them in at 44, if we did or didn't, but it allows, because people are visual people, right,
Yeah.
Josh? I mean, you could say that you're 42% complete, right? But what does visually look like? And
Yeah.
so the BIM version of comparing is another huge tool that OpenSpace offers to be able to either in the field to say, hey, geez, you know what, we got a ductwork going through here. Again, we should be looking at the Revit model anyways.
Yeah.
But if you haven't loaded, it's that secondary method of I better not run my 2-inch conduit there, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I love that. You
yeah,
actually made a point. So you mentioned that, the foreman submits, how much is complete, and the PM jumped on OpenSpace to walk through OpenSpace and say, well, actually it's this. And you know, it's one of those things where it's like that to me is maximizing efficiency, right? Especially with shortages of labor. Like it sounds like your PM could jump from multiple projects within a span of an hour instead of having to jump in the car and drive. Is that something you guys notice? Because that is something we hear often in how companies are trying to leverage, especially AI, to really maximize that efficiency across their company. Can you talk about that piece? And is that something you guys are noticing within your group?
So again, we live it, so it's not experiencing. We're immersed in technology, so we would never. We have virtual. We built before NAC came out with their box with laptop and the LED TV. We built our own aluminum 24-inch deep and 48-inch wide boxes that are 6'6" tall. It's got an LED light above it with a 42-inch backlit LED monitor. Everything goes up to the cloud. Our PMs monitor everything. So if they're having CBs come through, construction bulletins come through, they're being managed by the PM, but they're being put into the cloud and they're being pushed out to the field. So every time they turn their laptop on in the morning, they're getting the latest and greatest version, right? So we're living that. And so to say, we haven't run plans out to a job in 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So for us to talk like that, to drive something someplace I mean, yes, absolutely face-to-face meetings are absolutely needed, 100%, right? Specifically if there's compression on a job, specifically if there is broken timelines, and again, even if it's just a job lunch where you're going to buy lunch for all the trades in the job, which we do, right? Because we buy it for the whole job because the drywaller is less willing to throw it into you and close the wall up, so that's where our PMs will go. They'll do some coaching. As far as them, when there's a problem, everybody's visual. When there's more eyes, before we had OpenSpace, we used to do FaceTime, right?
Yeah.
We would just FaceTime. Here, turn on the back camera, and I'll look at what you're looking at. We've troubleshot projects with this, right? You just open up the camera and this is what I'm seeing. And back when we used to troubleshoot things more, right? And again, technology. So this is all we've ever known. Do 100% of our people fully embrace it? They all accept it. But they use it to different degrees, right? So we have some people that are writing Power Automate code in 365, and if this, do this, and and we have other ones that just do a JHA every morning on their phone or whatever, and it automatically does all this other stuff on the back end. So, but could they do it? They'll be able to do the app, but that's all they can do, right? Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay as long as they don't say no.
No, it's important, and I love how forward thinking you guys are. And I mean, it sounds like a lot of that helps from having the young, the young team, but also just in general, what you guys have been able to do for so long and really push that envelope on adopting technology and utilizing that to be a very efficient company. So I'd love to talk about kind of the coordination with the GC. Like you guys have been a very forward-thinking company in leveraging technology. I think one of the challenges we hear from a lot of groups who come to us asking, to view OpenSpace is there's so many different stakeholders on a project. You have so much different data points that, in a lot of ways, everybody has their own data, right? A 2D picture in this kind of same spot could be a little off, and you can create your own story from it. How are you guys utilizing technology in general, could be OpenSpace, to be whatever, to really leverage and coordinate with the GC on your projects?
As far as the coordination, we are very blessed to work with a couple of really, really rock solid contractors. My favorite partners in the industry in this area, by far, CD Smith Construction. They're a general contractor, rock star, best general contractor in the state of Wisconsin. And then there's a company called GFA Hearn. They're a mechanical contractor, and they're best in class. They're in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, 20 minutes away. And again, they're also cutting edge as well, right? So it's not like you have to pull them along kicking and screaming. Those are on bigger projects. On smaller projects, we've been not up against. We've worked with other contractors that are not as technology centric. So, but I can say this, we just did a domestic abuse shelter. They moved from one building to another. We took over the building, and we did an open space capture. And that's one of the things we'll talk about. I'm going to jump ahead just for a second. So this is a potential claim, right? So we had them go through, and everybody had to come figure out, we had to get budgets together for this project. And again, it's not our building. It belongs to somebody else. Our customer has not bought it yet. Limited hours. So we went through, did a complete capture of all 3 floors, and we sent the link out to everybody. What a godsend. And I'll tell you why it was a godsend, and later on, because I can hold that part. But it was a godsend before we even stepped foot in the building, before we even turned a screwdriver. Getting existing conditions down on a historic building with all hard lid ceilings, no drop ceilings in the entire building, all hard lid ceilings. In capturing those existing conditions was essential. So their architect, historic building, so the architect had some questions. He was actually, the general contractor had their own architect, but they didn't have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It was hit open space. This is a godsend. If I heard it once, I heard it 100 times on that job. What a godsend. Again, with all hard lid ceilings, you have heat pumps up in the ceiling and such above hard lids. And it was awesome that there had to be new ductwork run and stuff like that. It was being able to see where the scuttles were and all this other stuff. The HVAC contractor said it was an awesome tool. I said to both of them, this is why we do this. I don't think that they see the cost, the value versus cost thing in their head. But that's one set of contractors, no names, right? But I can absolutely see a CD Smith or a JFA Hearn jumping on board. Why? Because tools don't cost money, tools make money.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
And so there's the other piece, and I think this is where you were going with, taking the pictures early on and where you were getting with that, but coordination with the GC. And there's always, it's always good to hear when you have the good relationships, but just due to not even just the GC, but a bunch of different stakeholders on a project, if something goes wrong, and things tend to always go wrong on construction because just lots at stake, a lot of moving parts, how have you used OpenSpace to help manage those disputes when they do come up?
So this shelter, this commercial building specifically, had all hard lid ceilings, no contractors' names, right? I'm not here to talk smack, but the building had been worked in previously and not by Shea Electric. Above a drop ceiling, if you have a drop ceiling, you have accessibility to get above a ceiling and open up junction boxes. There's a hard lid ceiling with 9 inches of space to the rafters, and there were junction boxes up there buried.
Yeah.
So we ended up capturing everything, and we ended up, when we had to open up spaces to be able to pull wire, etc., and we found all these code violations. Right? So having those to say to the, hey, listen, somebody has to fix them. We can't leave it like that, right? I mean, it's with we're exposing code violations, and these are existing conditions. Then all of a sudden it becomes, that's not true. That was never there. There was hey, guess what? Because we happen to rip some of the ceilings out, right? Well, now we can say, let me show you what it looked like at the very beginning, when it was all a hard lid. Everything was smooth as glass up there. It was all drywall or plaster. Oh, geez. Can we agree there's a box there? But there was no scuttle within 25 feet, 30 feet, and it's a 9-inch ceiling. Yeah. So, again, it wasn't meant to be punitive, but it's one of those things where not me, I didn't do that. You know what I mean? And so we've used it for that. That's one instance of how that helps save, not us, because we're going to get paid to fix it, right? It's but to help the customer, because again, they had to buy the building from somebody, right? So again, our job is to help be a conduit for our customer as well. We have to be an advocate.
Yeah.
we just finished and again, no names, but we were on a hospital, not a hospital, we were on a hotel project recently, and very good, amazing customer, great customer. They're changing brands, so they're doing a remodel,
Okay.
and they had an out-of-town contractor come in. They are used to doing all the fit and finishes, all the FF&E, furnitures, fixtures, and equipment.
Okay.
They recently started doing the general contracting. Okay, so they're still working out the bugs. Okay,
Mhm.
they're newer to they don't have a lot of SOPs. Okay, so as we start the project out, we would get a timeline. We got the timeline we bid from,
Mhm.
and then 2 weeks in, it was broken. And they'd redo the timeline,
Mhm.
and then at 8 in the morning, and by 2:30 in the afternoon, timeline's broken. Next day, new timeline, a day and a half later, broken. So it became very apparent that there's going to be labor stacking. There's
Mhm.
going to be inefficiencies, a lot more people. You're supposed to have 300 square feet per person to work on a job site. That's not going to be the case. You know what I mean? And we're going to be on top of each other. If you can imagine all hotel rooms and stuff, right? People like
Yeah.
little ants. So we this is supposed to be done. No. So we ended up running the OpenSpace through, our OpenSpace through, and doing more than the 4 captures we would write pre-construction or pre-bid, wall roughing, open sealing, and then final inspection.
Yeah.
We did more than that. We did probably 4 to 5 extra captures. It was very compressed, as you can imagine, right? Because when they're out of rooms, they're not making any money, so they want to spin this.
Okay.
We did probably 4 extra captures, maybe 5, because I felt very strongly that, and of course, there's an email that flies out, right? Another broken timeline, you know what I mean? Another broken timeline, right? We're documenting. Well, I'll be honest with you, when we got to the end, there was a lot of extras, and it was all for added scope, compression, inefficiencies, and the list goes on. I mean, and I'm not using names because I'm not bad mouthing, right? But if we had to go to court, I am 100% positive that we would have won hands down.
Yeah.
Let's pull up all of we do daily job, we do safety and safety sheets every day. We also do daily job write-ups,
Okay.
and we clearly call out everything. We can pull up where the timeline is and what our job write-up says, and then we can pull up OpenSpace.
Yeah.
And well, geez, the wall covering is supposed to be on, and it's
Yeah.
not even taped yet.
Yeah.
Right. So again, an amazing tool on a fast-paced job with compression.
Mhm.
There shouldn't have been compression, but there ended up being compression, right? Because they burned all the float in the beginning of the project.
Mhm.
So again, I would say that I felt really good knowing that I have 7 years of that you guys are going to retain this information for me, right?
Yeah.
I felt really good saying, and we had conversation. I'm like, just so you know, you got copied on every daily job write-up.
Yeah.
Every email I have copies of where it broke another broken timeline. I was identifying every timeline that came out. So timeline 1, timeline 2, timeline 3, when on a 4-month job and you're on timeline 70,
Yeah.
right? And you've got the backups to prove it. We had digital still pictures. I told you before, we have 360 cameras. We just take a snapshot here and there if we have to, right?
Yeah.
We don't run OpenSpace through, but unless it's part of our SOP.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was the money. I mean, it
That's
helped
awesome.
solve the problem very quickly.
Yeah.
I did not have to engage an attorney.
Mhm.
I would have, but then the clock's on and it would have cost them a lot more.
Yeah.
So we had good conversation, and yeah, so, and I'm gonna tell you, the customer has this as a record now, right? Because they paid for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them all this information. They can have it all.
Yeah.
It's theirs. So added value.
Yeah. Really is. And the thing is, like, the big thing is like information is power, right? And I love these stories because that's one of the big things we like open space and our like the trades team here at open space is trying to empower within the trades community is if the more information you could have, the more organized that information is, the more confident you feel about these projects, about your budget, about the schedule. And you're sitting here and you even say, like, I love that. Like, 7 to 10 years from now, I still feel good about it because it's all organized. I could find it within, 30 seconds. And that took, you know, your guy probably 18 minutes, 20 minutes to walk that one floor, capture what he needed to, and it's all organized and done. And
In,
that's what,
in and out of every room, Josh. In and
yeah,
out of every room, 30 minutes to do a whole floor.
yeah. And it's safe and organized, full 360. We love
Yep,
hearing that. And are we gonna have the opportunity to see you at NICA this year in San Diego?
absolutely 100%.
Oh
I
yeah.
cut my right arm off, then not make the convention.
There we go. I love it. Well, we are super excited to see you. And again, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. We love doing these chats. We love getting in front of our customers and having the
I have,
opportunity to hear these stories.
I have one more for you.
Bring
I,
it. Let's hear it.
so we are a small company
Mhm.
and we don't have a full-time safety director.
Okay.
And so Desmond Vincent is our safety director. He's also our lead service person. He's a master electrician service person, train the trainer guy.
Yeah.
So again, the cool thing about it is that he can't get everywhere, right? He cannot be everywhere. It's not his job to be everywhere. He's a lead service person.
Mhm.
So um, Craig will take the captures. He'll send them out. We send all these captures out to 100% of our people. That's another thing you can talk about. We
Mhm.
send 100% of these captures out to 100% of our employees.
Yeah.
Because if we have a person that's not working on the Milwaukee project, or we have a person that's not working on the Beaver Dam project, or a person that's not working on the Appleton project, they can actually zoom in and open up OpenSpace and they can actually see the job. And, our own people are able to check out where, hey, Andrew's working in Beaver Dam or so and so is working over here, so they can go look at the projects. That's pretty cool. Where
Yeah.
I'm going with that is that as a safety director, Desmond is going home. We've asked him to go home and get home at lunch. Literally, put your feet up, change into a pair of shorts, crack a beer, okay, and review the open spaces of the CD Smith jobs or the CR Meyer jobs or the Bolt Construction jobs or what Berghammer jobs, right?
Yeah.
We can review it if, let's just say that there's an 8-inch hole, not that the mechanicals would ever do this, or right, but there's an 8-inch hole that they didn't cover up, right? And it
Yeah.
drops to the floor below. He can actually see that with OpenSpace. He can grab it, take the picture, and capture it, send an email off to their safety director to say, hey, listen, this is going to get closed up, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Stairwell's not clean. Take snap a picture of it from OpenSpace. Hey, stairwell's got to be clean for means of egress. If
Yeah.
we don't have cages around our LED lights,
Mhm.
I'm not just picking on everybody else. If something's not correct, he can capture it and say, you're hanging from the cord and not from the light itself. That's a
Mhm.
violation. Get that fixed right away. And he'll actually box it out and send it to our foreman, right?
Yeah. Love
Not
that.
that that ever happens, but if it did, he'd be able to do it. Uh,
Sure.
my point is that every time you put somebody in a vehicle, right, they could get schmucked.
Yeah.
You're spending resources, right? A vehicle, it's got to roll. You got tires, wear and tear, 67 cents a mile. Where
Yeah.
he's at home in shorts, relaxing outside under his pergola, drinking a beer and watching open space on a
Yeah.
Friday afternoon. It don't get any better than that.
It doesn't. And it's funny because we laugh about his process, which is amazing process, right? Of being able to go home and have a beer, but really just like the idea of just being more efficient. Like that's what he's doing. He's able to hit, 10 projects within a day, see all of them by walking virtually through them, then having to hop in a car and maybe you guys do 40 miles radius, maybe get to 2 projects per every few days.
Absolutely agree.
It's awesome to see. Love how very forward thinking you guys are. Love that we were able to do this before Nika, get the opportunity to talk, and then hopefully share this story with other Nika members as well, and see if we can continue helping and building on the partnership that we have with you, which I know Alex and Aaron and Ben have really appreciated, and so have I in the open space team. So again, Dan, you're awesome. I
Oh,
really
thank you very much.
and appreciate you, man.
Have a great night and thank you. Be safe.
Awesome.